Hi, this is Tim. Welcome to Tim Can Cook. So today we're going to be making a classic French dish called coq au vin. Fancy name for cock cooked in wine. Cock, of course, meaning rooster. It's really just a chicken stew that's cooked in wine. Historically made with rooster, you marinated it for at least overnight in the wine to let the rooster break down, and then slow cooked it to get the meat nice and tender. We are not going to marinate overnight, but we are going to marinate for an hour, which adds significant flavor to the chicken as well as tenderizes it. So we're going to start here with 3 pounds of chicken. These are skin on, bone in thighs and legs. So the first thing we're going to do is simply season these generously with salt and pepper. And then we're going to get them in the wine to marinate for a good hour. They can go as long as overnight. In fact, coq au vin is really better the next day. So this is a great dish for entertaining because you can cook it the day before and then simply heat and serve it on the day of your dinner party. And it will be better that the day you reheat and serve. So in with the chicken into our little marinating pot here. We're going to put a bay leaf and a small batch of thyme. Small is, of course, relative, but you can see it's a small batch of thyme and a bay leaf. I found a very nice Cabernet Sauvignon. This is a Woodbridge that I picked up for $5. You put in 3 cups, which is really the entire bottle, 750 milliliters of the wine. And you do want to kind of push the chicken down and make sure it's covered. Now we're going to cover it, and it will go into the refrigerator where it will marinate for an hour, and then we'll be back and we'll prepare the rest of the ingredients. So I'll see you back here in an hour. Now, processing most of the ingredients for this is simple, but one thing you might not be comfortable with are peeling pearl onions. So we're going to place the pearl onions into boiling water. Do this without burning myself. And we're just going to simmer them in here for a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, once this water comes back to a boil. And after 2 or 3 minutes, we'll dip them out and place them into ice water. That bowl next to the pan with the screen in it is full of ice water, and the screen is set on top so that the onions and the ice don't get all mixed up together. So again, we'll let this go for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll get them out of the water and into the ice bath to cool off. Now that our onions have cooled, it's very simple to just take a knife, take the end off, and then squeeze, and just pop the little pearl right out. Again, very simple. Take the end off, squeeze, and pop the little pearl right out. So I'll go ahead and do the rest of these, and then we'll come back and finish our recipe. Okay, we're back. So our chicken has been marinating for just about an hour. We have removed it from the wine and placed on paper towels and patted it dry. So the ingredients now for our coq au vin are our 3 pounds of chicken. We have our 3 cups of red wine. We have 8 ounces of pearl onions that have been peeled. We have a medium white onion that's been diced. A large carrot, rough diced, in this case 2 medium carrots. 6 strips of bacon cut into 1/2-inch pieces. 8 ounces of baby bella mushrooms. 1 tablespoon of brandy. Now you can substitute whiskey if you don't have brandy, or you can leave it out, but it is classic. 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, some flat parsley for finishing, 2 tablespoons of garlic, salt and pepper to taste, 3 tablespoons of room temperature butter, and 2 tablespoons of flour, which we'll use to thicken our gravy. At this point, we're ready for the stove, so I will see you over there. We're going to start by cooking our bacon. We'll get this all crisped up, and then we'll take advantage of this bacon fat to then cook our chicken. So we'll start again by simply cooking our bacon for about 5 minutes on medium-high until it's nice and crisp. In the traditional coq au vin, lardon is used. Lardon is simply pork belly. I didn't happen to have any pork belly, and I didn't feel like buying a whole slab, which I will be buying soon to make our own bacon, but it's very common to substitute bacon, so that's what we're going to do for this recipe. This is actually thick sliced bacon. It's homemade. There will be a recipe for making bacon linked up in the corner when we get ready to do that. I do slice my bacon thick. I really prefer the thick sliced bacon to the thin sliced bacon you get in the grocery store. This bacon happens to be apple smoked, but you can use any bacon for this. If you use thin sliced bacon, it's going to cook a little faster and it's going to render out a little more fat. We may not have enough fat when we're finished with the bacon to cook the chicken. If we don't, we'll simply add a little more fat. We can add olive oil. In our case, if we need the additional fat, we'll actually add some additional pork fat. But for now, we're just crisping up our bacon. All right, I like the cook on this bacon. So now we're just going to pull it out with a slotted spoon and get it over here on a paper towel to drain. You can cook this to be more crispy if you'd like. I like my bacon to be a little chewy in this dish, and again with the thick cut bacon I get that texture, so that's another advantage of using this thick cut bacon in this dish. Now this looks like we have enough fat left over, so now we will start browning our chicken. Now the important part here is not to overcrowd the pan, so we'll cook this in batches. Make sure we get a nice crisp on the skin of this chicken. And as you see, it will take 2 batches to get what we're looking for. We'll let this go about 5 minutes aside. Again, we're on medium to medium-high heat. And once we get this chicken crisped up, then we will pull it out and we'll start on the rest of the ingredients. So we have a beautiful sear on our chicken. We'll just kind of finish off this second batch, and then we'll get back to the rest of the recipe. Now that we have our chicken nicely seared, it's time for the onion and the carrots and the mushrooms. We will season these with a little salt And then we'll get these nicely browned. This process will take about 5 minutes. We'll just make sure nothing burns. And we'll develop some nice flavor in our vegetables. It's been about 5 minutes on our vegetables. They're starting to get some nice color. All the beautiful brown bits at the bottom of this pan, they're going to come up into that sauce, so that's going to be really lovely. All right, so now we're going to add our garlic and our tomato paste. And we'll cook this off now for just a couple minutes. The goal here is to just kind of coat these vegetables, bring out the fragrance of the garlic and tomato. This really, anytime we add garlic to a dish, we want to cook it for about a minute to take that harshness away from the garlic, from the raw garlic. Something to always keep in mind when there's garlic in a recipe, you want to make sure you cook it to get rid of that harshness. Again, this is only going to take about a minute. It really smells lovely. All right. Now in goes the brandy. Now the alcohol will cook off immediately. Don't have to worry about that. And then the reserved wine. Going to hold off on our time for just a minute. And now we want to bring this to a boil. So we're going to turn the heat up and let this come to a boil. And that'll take just a couple of minutes. So now that this has come back to a boil, we're going to go ahead and simmer and reduce this by about half. And we will also skim off any foam that comes to the surface. You can see the foam is forming on there now. We'll just skim that off just because it clouds the resulting base. You don't have to do that. It's an optional step, but we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll take this down by about half, and then we'll be back. So it's been about 10 minutes. We've reduced by half. Now it's time to add in our pearl onions, half of our bacon, reserve the other half for later, and then we're going to put our chicken in. We've turned our heat down because we're going to now simmer this, but we're going to add our chicken back in. Oh, the smell is just wonderful. Again, normally this is made with a Burgundy. I used a Cabernet Sauvignon. And it's very rich. The smell is terrific. Now here's the point where we may need to add a little more liquid, because we do want to make sure our chicken is covered. Now, it's very close, but I'm going to go ahead and add in some chicken stock. You can add water if you'd like. This is homemade chicken stock. And I added about 1.5 cups there. And that gets us to a good depth. Now you might be asking, why did we reduce this by half only to add in more stock? And that's just to intensify the flavor. So we're going to now cover this. We're going to simmer for about an hour. Make sure that it's just at a simmer, so you're going to check this in just a few minutes. We're going to simmer this for an hour, and then we'll come back for the next part of the recipe. Okay, it's been an hour, and our chicken is very tender. So now we're going to remove the chicken from the pot. Just falling apart tender here, which is very nice. And we're going to actually turn our temperature up. I'm going to fish these herbs out of here as well. I don't really want to finish this with those in there. Once again, I wish this was wish there was some way you could smell this, because it really is marvelous. That rich wine flavor. Okay, so now we're gonna turn this back up, and we're gonna simmer this for about 10 minutes, and then we'll thicken this, and we'll be ready to serve. So we've been simmering for about 10 minutes, reducing. In the meantime, we mixed our butter and flour into a roux, and we will put this into our simmering pot to thicken the stock that's remaining. This will just take a couple of minutes. And of course, we want to thicken that until it will coat the back of a spoon. In the meantime, I've already tasted it, added a little more salt and pepper. So the seasoning is now finished. We are just about ready to eat. You can see there we're just about perfect. So we turn off the heat. We will add our chicken back in to get it warmed back up. Our beautiful thick sauce. And I don't actually want any of this to go to waste. All that wonderful flavor back in. And we are just about ready. All right, so our last step is simply to add back in the remainder of the bacon. This is the half of the bacon that we kept out. And some flat leaf parsley. And now we are ready to serve. I will be eating this later, served over some egg noodles. I'll tell you, the smell is wonderful. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Tim Can Cook and demystifying coq au vin. It's a simple dish. It's just chicken stew cooked in wine. If this had been an old rooster, we would have wanted to simmer for much, much longer. But since this is fresh, nice, store-bought chicken, we only need to cook it for about an hour. Again, if you like the show, like the channel, please subscribe, share it with a friend. Help me grow it. I'd really love to get this channel up to 1,000 subscribers in the next couple of weeks. So if you share this video with all your friends, that would be really appreciated. So until next time, this has been Tim Can Cook.